Hello, grade 3. So today, just like on Wednesday, we are going to start with math. We're going to follow pretty much the exact same schedule as Wednesday to keep things a little bit consistent. So I'm going to share my screen with you and we're going to jump into lesson 4 of math. Second here. So today we're going to relate bar graphs to scaled picture graphs. So on Wednesday, we did some bar graphs. We have done scaled picture graphs. That is the same thing as a pictograph. We did that the lesson before. Now we're going to relate them. That means kind of compare them. So let's walk through this together. You can fill in the answers as we go. I'll grab my pen. And then I will go over each of the sections here and explain them. Ishi counted the number of each type of fish in her fish tank. The scaled picture graph displays the data. So remember, if we have a scaled graph, there's always a key and it tells us how much one thing stands for. So in this case, our picture of our fish equals 2 fish. So we need to write a few sentences that interpret the data, then answer the questions. So how many jewelfish are there? There are 2, 4, 6, 8 jewelfish. The number of catfish is 2. So right now it's giving you some different ways how you can interpret data. Remember, interpreting is just kind of describing what it's showing. So there's one example. There are 8 jewelfish. The number of catfish is 2. Ishi has blank tetras and blank loaches. Okay, she has 2, and then, oh, I see half of a picture here. So what must that mean? 2, excuse me, 1 whole fish equals 2. What does a half a fish equal? 1, right? So 2 plus 1 gives me 3 tetras. And then loaches, she has 2, 4. All together, Ishi has how many fish? So we need to add these all together. 8 plus 2 is 10, plus 3 is 13, plus 4 is 17 fish. What kind of fish does Ishi have the fewest of? Fewest means the smallest number. So which one has the smallest amount? Tetra. I'm not sure how to say that. I keep saying it differently. Tetra or tetra? What do you guys think? Never heard of that fish before. Ishi has twice as many blank as loaches. So twice as many would be like this, something times 2. So she has how many loaches? You can see here, 2, 4. So we need to know how many fish has loaches. 4 times 2. So what does 4 times 2 equal? 8. And which fish does she have 8 of? Jewelfish. I'm not going to write the whole thing. I'm just going to write the J. You can write it out. My pen is so hard. Are there more or less jewelfish than catfish, tetras, and loaches combined? So we know we have 8 jewelfish. They're asking, are there more of just jewelfish than catfish, tetras, and loaches altogether? So let's just add catfish, tetras, and loaches. We have 2 plus 3 is 5, plus 4 is 9. So are there more or less jewelfish than all of those together? There's less. So to explain, how do we know there's less? I'm not going to write it, but you can with your pencil and your hand. We added together catfish, Ishi, not Ishi, that's the person, catfish, tetras, and loaches. We got 9. So we could say 9 is more than 8. So that means there are less jewelfish. All right. Okay, copy all that down and then keep going with the video. Let's go to the next page. Does the data change from when it is displayed in a scaled picture graph to when it is displayed in a bar graph? So let's think about this as we work through this. First, we're going to use the data from the scaled picture graph. This is the same data as before, Ishi's fish, and we're going to put it into a bar graph. As we're working, I want you to think, Is the data changing at all? So let's hang in there with me with my drawing. That's my title. Okay, title stays the same. Ishi's fish. Yours should look much nicer than mine. Ishi's fish. Okay, we have jewelfish, tetra, catfish, and loach. So we know we're going vertically here because my numbers go up the side. So my bars have to go up. So remember I have 8 jewelfish. So I'll start up here, draw my rectangle down. You can color that in. Tetra, we have 3. So I need to go right here in the middle. Go down. Catfish, just 2. Pew, pew. And loach, 4. Up to 4 and down. So your line should be much straighter than mine because you have a pencil and your hands. You can even use a ruler if you want it to look very nice. So the scaled picture graph represents the data with what? What does this represent the data with? The number of fish. Pictures. So when we have a pictograph or a picture graph, our data is represented with pictures. Now the bar graph represents the data with, if a picture graph represents data with pictures, what must a bar graph represent data with? Bars, easy. Each scaled picture graph symbol stands for how many fish? Our key tells us 2 fish. Each bar graph scale interval stands for. So our scaled interval is what we have here, the numbers on the lines. It's also standing for 2 fish. If we counted by ones, it would be standing for 1 fish, but we counted by 2s. So there we go. Get all that information, then I'm gonna scroll. So the data does or does not change when it's displayed in a scaled bar graph. It does not change. It's the same exact data. It's showing us the same exact thing, just in a different type of graph. All right. Let's keep on moving. Oh, I want to clear that tongue tie. Excuse me, my throat. Complete the bar graph using the data from the scaled picture graph. So you're going to do the exact same thing. You're going to take this information and turn it into a bar graph. Now, the only thing you need to be careful of is sometimes your bar graphs will go vertically, sometimes they'll go horizontally. So that all depends on where the numbers are. So if my numbers are along the bottom here, it's going to look like this. If my numbers are on the side, it's going to go up like this. Okay? Then everything else from here will stay the same. See, notice our scale is the same. Our key says 1 star equals 5, and then they counted by 5s on here. Our title is the same. You just need to draw the bar graph. All right. Keep on moving. Same thing over here. Use the data from the first picture graph to display in the second graph. And write 1 sentence about the data in the graphs. So first, you're just gonna take this information and put it into a bar graph. Then on the line, I want you to write 1 sentence about the data in the graphs. Remember, our first page, we wrote a lot of sentences, or we filled in the sentences. Give me anything like that. There are this many, this. There are, let's see, what are we working with on this one? So they're talking about camping trips. How many camping trips Colin, Eli, and Lucy went on? So you could say, Lucy went on blank camping trips. Or Colin went on blank more camping trips than Eli. Just 1 sentence. Okay, so I shouldn't just see your bar graph. Hopefully you're paying attention. You also need to write a sentence for each. Same here. This one's a little different. You're just taking the bar graph and turning it into a picture graph. So you get to choose what the picture is going to be. All right, now it's talking about movies. Maybe you could draw, it's hard to draw like a camera, but you could try to draw a camera. You could use any symbol. You could just do stars. All right, this one you have picture graph, turn it into a bar graph. Now this one, oh, this one you're gonna make a tally chart. There we go. Sorry, I got confused. I didn't know they were gonna switch it up on us. So this one is gonna be a tally chart. Tally chart. So title's the same. You have your seasons, and then you have the votes. So tally marks, remember you count how many there are. So you're not gonna have a scale, you're gonna count out all of them. So this tells us that it's 5. So for winter, I should have 5 tally marks. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. So title, season, then you write all 4, and then you can write tally marks here, and then you write your marks in those boxes. Now we're bringing it all together. All right, last page, couple story problems. Ella kept a tally chart of all the times her dog did a trick. Display the data in a scaled picture graph and a bar graph. Explain to a friend how you made each graph. Graph, not graphed. You don't need to do that. Just make the graphs, okay? So you have your tally chart. And if you're not sure for the last one, this is what yours should look like. Tallies and then seasons here, and then fill in the rest. So they tell you what your key is in the scale. So 1 paw print equals 4 times. So you're gonna count all these up and then draw the amount of paw prints you need. Some of them you might need half a paw print. It's not, doesn't go into 4. Then the bar graph is gonna be the same exact data. So you can use the same scale here. 0 always goes here, and then 4. Okay, then do the rest here. Count by 4s. Okay, that's all for that one. Number 6, how would the graph at the right change if you changed the symbol value to 2? So you don't need to redo it, but if we change this symbol to mean 2 letters instead of 4 letters, how would this change? Would we have more pictures of letters? Would we have less pictures of letters? How much more? How much less? Try a sentence there to explain how it would change. Okay. What might the scale for a bar graph that displays the same data with the symbol value of 4 be? So this can kind of be answered right up here too. So if we are using a symbol that values 4, what would the scale for that bar graph look like? So it's going to look just like this one we just did. So you're always going to start with 0, and then you'd have 4, and then what would the next following lines count for? And then you don't need to do number 8. All right, that is math for today. You're gonna jump into grammar next whenever you finish up with this.